Well, I tell you what, this is a first for Death Club Radio. We're actually in video today. My co-host Logan and I are having one after another technical difficulties, which sadly, I'll say it before he does, are all my fault.
They are.
They're all my fault.
You said it, not me.
Whew, so here we are in our Ask Death Club segment in my backyard, because that's just the way it turned out. And our subject this week is families. You varmints, get out now! Unbelievable.
Family drama.
They're yours. So I asked my geopolitical genius here to tell us a little bit about family craziness and death and dying when we're talking about politics and world rulers.
Well, it's interesting when you talk about leadership or particularly nobility or families that come from a pristine bloodline. We all get crazy around death for different reasons. You know, everyone's at a different place in their relationship with the dying party.
Right.
But when there's millions of dollars at stake and legacy,
power,
and power,
prestige.
I mean, something is frivolous as a family name. You know, it's, you know, don't disgrace the family name. You have
Right.
to carry on the family name. And you see, like, it gets just as ugly as it does in the microcosms that we see on a daily basis of the average American family. It's just on a grander scale. And when things like that come into play, it's a much bigger catastrophe, and things get a lot uglier.
Yep.
You know.
We've been photobombed by Jefferson. Jefferson, get out of the video now. Thank you, 7th graders. I'm not kidding. We have to cut all that stuff out now. Get out and sit down. I'm gonna put you in the corner, you little twit. And you know what? You do not get my Dodge Charger that I'm going to get someday when I die. All right? Lorelei, it's all yours. I'm serious. Right. So when we talk about families of power, we're still talking about the dynamics we were talking about with James Brown and Casey Kasem. You know, it's still the same who's connected, who's left out, who feels like daddy
Who's
loves
next
them.
in line? Yeah.
And
yeah.
who's
Who
next in
feels
line.
entitled? Yeah. Who was the favorite?
Sure. So you've got a theory on this that we've talked about involving The Sopranos. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, it's no secret that The Sopranos is A, the greatest show of all time, and B, my favorite show. And little known to people, you know, when people think of The Sopranos, all you think immediately of is this mafioso guy. And the original pitch of the show was about Tony Soprano, but it was about the relationship of him and his mother. And it was about, here's this guy that commits cold-blooded murder for blood money, but his relationship with his mother was so bad that he needed therapy. A cold-blooded killer needed therapy.
About Mama.
About Mama.
And his
yeah,
mama
his mama
issues.
Yeah, of all the problems, the FBI, RICO, you know, rival mafia outfits. The biggest problem in his life was his relation with his mother. He had a toxic relationship with his mother that stemmed from his livelihood.
Right.
And, you know, it's a great example of what all of us go through. He's just a different guy because of the connect. It's the same thing. And when his mother finally dies in the show, him and his two sisters have to come to the conclusion of it. And, you know, the despicable but funny thing about it is the passing of his mother comes as a relief to him. And the two sisters deal with it differently. His sister Janice, who was just as mistreated and as malnourished in a loving sense as a child, who had always shared Tony's despise of his mother.
Right.
All of a sudden, now that she's dead, oh, mom's dead. It's not the person she was is dead. It's this idea that mom's dead. So she's reminiscent and, you know, talking about the funeral proceedings, even though financially she knows that she's not going to bear any of the costs. She's bearing all of the emotional costs.
Right.
And then they have a neutral third sister that is kind of, you know, would feel what most of us feel, you know, like my mother's gone, you know, it's like she has a different connection than them.
And that's the classic family triangle with 3 children. I mean, that's what you're going to see in Death and Dying. But as you know, the drum that I always like to beat is we don't talk enough about these things. That one of the reasons we have the chaos that we see in family dynamics at the time of death is because we are unwilling to take the risk to talk about these things in our family. I mean, few and far between are the families who are willing to address issues of, I felt abandoned by you to a parent. I felt disrespected by you to a child. I felt like we always were competitive to assembling. You know, few families are willing to talk about that, and they're certainly not going to bring it up until the powder keg blows off at death.
And that's the problem, is like you can never, the timing is bad, because all these feelings come off at a time of death, and that just seems inappropriate. You know, in someone's last moments, you feel like you should just talk about the good. Nobody wants to talk about the bad, because you're seen as, you know, this despicable person that, oh, here's someone on their deathbed, and you're bringing up a, you know, personal vendetta, something that hurt you decades ago or years ago. But when's a more appropriate time to get straight with someone before they're gone? And then you can never close that.
Right.
And it's the ugly thing, like you said, the ugly elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And I will be hearing from some funeral directors in the upcoming weeks and months who will tell you about some crazy stuff they have seen in the funeral home when families go buck wild with this stuff. You know, I know that you and I have talked about our own personal family stories, and my family's go-to emotion in times of stress is humor. And so we are far more likely to burst into laughter at an inappropriate moment than we are to get at each other's throats. What about your family?
I would say, like, my family, like, when we tackle, like, a smaller problem or even a mid-sized problem, we deal with it through humor, too. Like, we look at things and go, we've seen darker days than this. And we find a way to trivialize it and laugh it off. Unfortunately, when it comes to death, our family takes it pretty seriously, and we come down much more sentimental than I think. You know, and some people may think that, oh, you know, someone died, like, everyone gets sentimental. Nah, like, we get really sentimental about things because we usually deal with it with humor and kind of.
You get kind of Irish about it?
We get pretty Irish about it.
Oh, there it is. I'm not surprised. Well, thank you, Logan. I appreciate you chatting about family with me this week, and looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
Can't wait.
And this is our first time on video, so that's exciting and new. They're going to know what you look like now. Here comes the fan mail. More Logan. So, you are?
I am Logan Sandy, graffiti and punk music and fried chicken connoisseur.
Well
said, Logan.
And that wraps up our Ask Death Club segment. Thank you, baby. You the best.
Bye.
High production values, Death Club Radio. Yeah. Oh, I'm Mr. Big Shot Geopolitics.
I got a really cool radio show. You should listen to it sometime.
Oh, I'm so damn cool. I can do graffiti. I can read graffiti. That's really cool.
I can read anything. On the same day.
You butt.